Welcome to the show, The Voice of Hope. I'm Namara Hope. On this program, we inspire each other. We are the ambassadors of hope. We are privileged today to host one of our friends, also a founder, a voice, a hope to the hopeless. And her name is Jackie Wolfson, all the way from the United States of America.
I grew up in a small town in the U.S., in the state of New Jersey, in a very small family, unlike your family, which is very big.
Yeah.
Just me and an older sister. Was fortunate enough to have my parents, and we lived in a really sheltered environment. We didn't have any diversity. I think from a very young age, I knew that there would come a point in life where I was going to have to spread my wings. My father was a strict man. They owned a family grocery store. Me and my sister, we started working when we were 8 years old. As we were growing up and getting ready to graduate high school, which is, I think, the equivalent of your secondary school. My father, who didn't believe in college, especially for women, he thought women should just get married.
Wow, so
Yeah.
you have it in the US as well.
We have it in the
I
U.S.
thought
as
it was
well.
an African culture.
My mother really had to work hard to persuade him to let me and my sister go to college, and more so go away. I think it was something she felt she missed out on.
Yeah.
So she didn't want us to miss out on that. So I went off to University of Delaware. And then after I graduated, I just knew I couldn't go home to that small town. So I packed up my bags
Yeah.
and I moved across the country to California and wanted to pursue a career in the entertainment industry. I tried really hard to break in and finally got my first internship in a small agency, and that sort of took me on my path of my entertainment. About 8 years later, I decided I didn't want to be there anymore. A friend of mine was moving back to the East Coast, and he took me along with him. Worked with him for a little bit, and then decided to start my own business. I opened a personal concierge business, which was the second of its kind at the time. My job was to make the impossible possible.
I like that.
Yeah, so it was really fun.
Yeah.
It was great, and it allotted me tons of freedom, because as long as you could get me on the phone, it didn't matter where I was. So it allowed me to do what I love to do most, which was travel.
I'm so inquisitive to know, among all the countries you went through, how come you chose Uganda? What made Uganda stand out?
Well, actually, I ended up here on a fluke for a very big birthday of mine in 2008. I wanted to fulfill a lifelong dream of coming to the continent. And so I planned a birthday vacation that spanned over 3 months.
Yeah.
And what I did was I went 3.5 weeks on safari.
Yeah.
Then in the middle of it, I decided I wanted to volunteer. It was something I had never done before in my entire life.
Right.
And then I would go back on safari and go home. So due to the constraints of the criteria of what I was looking for as a volunteer experience, there was only 2 organizations that fulfilled that. And one was in Ghana and one was in Uganda. And logistically, Uganda just made sense, because I'd be coming from South Africa.
You won. Uganda won initially. That was like a
Uganda
birthday.
won initially, yeah.
Oh yeah, this is the part of Africa at the end of the day. You should really know that.
Yes.
I don't know what happens, like when an American comes to Uganda. I mean, how does life, how the adventure, the atmosphere, the weather, the food, the culture. So tell us about your first impression of the part of Africa, like we said. I mean, there's a lot you can talk about. Actually.
There's so much to talk about. As I mentioned before, I never volunteered before, and when I first got here and got off the plane,
Yeah.
it was late at night, and the person who was supposed to be there to greet me wasn't there. And I ended up being the only person left in the airport, surrounded by everybody who's begging me, taxi, taxi, taxi.
I imagine.
Finally, some young person showed up with a sign that looked like it was supposed to be my name.
Yeah.
And I figured I would just go with it. He took my luggage. We went in this car. He didn't speak a word of English, nothing. And you know, this is 2008, so it's very different than it is now.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
It's not as
Over 12 years.
yes.
Massive
The
difference.
progress has been incredible
Yeah.
over the last 12 years. So we're driving. We drive down this dirt road. I'm thinking to myself, "Oh my God, what did I get myself
Where are the
into?"
lights?
He stops the car, gets out of the car, disappears, and I'm sitting there and I'm getting a little anxious. And then he comes back with a phone, and it's the gentleman, Michael, who was supposed to meet me at the airport. He's like, "Oh, I'm going to see you in a few minutes, this, that, and the other thing." I said, "Okay, fine." We pull up to, I guess it's like a hostel, bed and breakfast type thing, and definitely not something I was used to. And I think maybe from the look of my face, they picked up on that, and they decided that we would travel all the way to Uganda.
Uganda.
That night.
I can't imagine.
So we all pile into this car. I think there was like maybe 6 people in the car. It's pouring rain. My luggage is in the back getting wet.
Nah.
This is my first experience on Ugandan roads. The guy is driving on the opposite side of the road. Everybody is like, it's chaos.
Yeah.
And all I kept thinking was, "Oh my God, I'm going to die tonight." We finally reached Uganda. We reached the house that I'm going to stay in because they put you up with a local family.
Yeah.
I'm exhausted. I'm really tired. I finally think I'm about to fall asleep, and next thing you know, the rooster, the Ugandan alarm clock.
Alarm clock. Always ready on time.
Yes.
Yeah.
The sun is bright. It's very hot already, very early in the morning. And I go to come walking out of my room, and the reality of what my next 6 weeks is going to look like
Yeah.
hit me. And I thought, I don't think I can do this.
First impression.
I don't think I can do this. So the woman whose job it was to show me around, take me to the place where I was going to be volunteering, she came, she picked me up. We came back, and I called a friend of mine at home, and I said, what was I thinking? I won't survive this. So he said some words to me, read a passage from the Bible, and told me to call him in 48 hours. So I thought, okay, that'll work, because I needed to plan where I was going. Mm-hmm. And the next day, we went to the place where I was supposed to be volunteering. I met some of the most amazing kids, and you know, it was really fascinating, right? Because they were so intrigued by the color of my skin. They were intrigued by Muzungu. They were intrigued by the fact that they could see my veins. Little kids are petting my hair, they're licking me, and they're all just so happy and smiling. And so something happened that day. I don't know what. And
Miracle happened.
I guess, right? And the next day, which was 48 hours later, I called my friend and I said, I don't think I'm ever coming home. Mm-hmm. And that became my love affair with Uganda and my experience for the first several years, because I kept coming back.
Yeah.
I would go home, come back, go home and come back, and I would spend most of my time in Uganda. And I just felt safe. I could walk at nights, except for, you know, some of those Muzungu, marry me type of thing.
Kind of jokes.
But ultimately, I was safe.
Yeah.
The people were so nice. I remember one afternoon, it started to rain, and these people invited me into their house. They made me tea, they gave me bread. One of them just so happened to have lived in the US for a while, so we were speaking about politics. I think at the time, Obama was running for president. I think it was around the election. It could have been right after the election.
Yeah.
And it just became so quickly like a second home to me. And it really changed my entire life, because from volunteering here, meeting so amazing kids who didn't have the opportunities that I was afforded, and yet they're so bright. And their futures were in jeopardy, basically because they didn't have access to the resources that I was fortunate enough to have as a child. And that really sent me home and sparked a thing in me that I didn't think existed, and made me want to pursue helping. And though at the time I didn't quite know what that was,
Yeah.
I didn't know if it was, do I start my own nonprofit or do I change gears and pursue a career in the NGO world and go work for someone else? And I just kept coming back to the continent, visiting different countries and figuring out what that was, and ultimately made that decision to start my own NGO. And so in 2014, the Shule Foundation was born.
2014.
Yes. I founded Shule because initially we wanted to build schools. So we found a piece of land. And 2016 was supposed to be the focus of raising money in order to build a school. But that became a lot harder than I thought. So a friend of mine suggested that I get a program. And he said, get a program, show people that when they give you money for a particular program, you spend that money on that program.
Yeah.
And you show people you can run a program.
Exactly.
So there was a gentleman who was interning with me here, and he suggested that I do my annual Christmas party in the slum of Kiseni, and that we do it for children who live on the streets. December 22nd of 2016, we hosted that Christmas party, and once again, Uganda changed my life. And that's where I met the boys of Container City. These were all boys living on the street in the containers in Kiseni. It was a really life-changing experience because I've never in my life experienced children who leave home for whatever reason, as young as 6 years old, and first of all think they can take care of themselves, and secondly, ultimately do.
Again, allow me to introduce Jackie. We're talking about Jackie Wolfson, a lady from America, definitely one who has come to Uganda and she has fallen in love with Uganda. You inspire me a lot because you come as a foreigner. Initially, I hope that does not offend you.
No.
You are an American in Uganda, and you meet these boys. These are boys, indeed, like you said, who belong to particular families. The 6-year-old has a mother and a father,
Yes.
I presume, somewhere. And this young man, as early as 6, decides to run to the streets for what God knows. Now you come and you look at them and you're thinking, wow, I think I just found something to do. Could you kindly share with us, tell us more about Shule Foundation?
From that Christmas party, there was a group of boys who I ended up interacting with on that day. And when I left that day, I couldn't stop thinking about them. So we kept going back. And over time, I built a bond with this particular group of kids and learned a lot. Fascinated that a young kid could actually
Live on the street.
live and survive.
Yeah.
And then what was even more heartbreaking was they became addicted to sniffing petrol, which is I learned is a combination of jet fuel and industrial glue. I had also realized that several of the kids were really bright. One afternoon, 2 of them had my phone and they started reading my emails, and I was shocked
But they could actually
that they
read.
could read and understand what they were reading. So that sort of hit home for me because Shule is about education. Unfortunately, boys who live on the streets have a huge stigma against them.
Yeah.
They're looked at as thieves, they're dirty. I think some people don't even acknowledge that they're actually children.
They ignore it.
Yeah, they're ignored.
Yeah.
They're ignored. And they're ignored on all levels. And this isn't just a Ugandan problem. This is a global problem. It happens in many countries across the world.
Yeah.
And in most countries, we call them street-connected children, are left out. They're left out of programs. They're left out of children's rights. And they are basically just dismissed.
Invisible.
They're invisible. Yes.
That way, like
They're
there,
invisible.
but nobody sees them.
Nobody sees them and nobody wants to see them. So went home and we restructured Shulai to help those kids. We had a boy and he vanished one day. Several weeks went by and he reappeared and he was crying. He had gotten arrested in Santa Camp Pilingsa. He was able to escape and he begged me to take him off the streets. So with the help of another organization, we founded a house and we moved 25 kids
Right.
off the street in 2017. And out of the 25 kids, 19 of them are still off the street.
Wow.
Yes. And we really developed our program with those kids and really developed our rehabilitation approach
Yeah.
to help these children break that cycle of independence,
Yeah.
taste for money, and addiction to drugs. Because those are the three components that pull these young people back
On
to
the
the streets.
streets. Wow.
So we're really excited.
I can imagine.
Yeah.
You seeing the ones who are invisible, you being able to see the one that almost society does not actually see. I imagine a heart that is able to see. Usually, I always tell people actually that the eyes we have are not the eyes. These eyes do not see. They are the eyes of the heart, because it's the heart that is able to feel and have compassion over someone else. Because we all have eyes, we see, but we don't have the hearts to embrace the ones who are almost left out. I mean, kudos to you, Jackie, for standing out, coming in the country and you stand up for those boys. You become their voice in a world where they don't have a voice, as one can put it. But then I would imagine what challenges comes with having these young men with you. What challenges? What on a daily basis? These guys have their own way of living.
They do.
They have their own way how they see things.
It's a struggle.
I can imagine.
Because some of them will still go back. And people always ask us, how are you going to measure success? And I tell people, every day a kid stays off the street is success. It's success for us. Because it's very hard for them to be in a structured environment because they haven't had structure. They don't have the foundation. They don't like to be reprimanded. So if you quarrel with them, that could be a trigger for a child to go back to the street because you quarreled.
He's not used to that.
He's not used to it.
He used to be independent, doing whatever he likes.
But it's amazing because that boy who was put in a remand home when he was very young, so he finished P1 and P2, and then he never entered school. And right now he's in P7. He's sitting for P7.
That's an achievement.
And it's been a struggle.
I can imagine.
And it's been a battle for him. And I feel like, for me, if they can overcome, then whatever difficulties come my way, I should be able to overcome for them.
I think actually you've overcome the challenge at some point, because by the time you make such a decision and say, listen, I'm going to work with a guy off the street, okay? A guy who has been sniffing stuff, who probably does not live a normal life. They have to be high for them to sleep. They have to be high even to understand you. They have to have something that just sets them up. So for you to even make an effort, even if it was one step, I'm willing to work with this guy, then I definitely believe that is an achievement. And well done. I wish more Ugandans would have a heart like you have. I wish I was one of them as well. That I would go and I would easily relate with these guys. I would look at them and think, okay, I can take this guy in my house and I won't have to think about something that I left somewhere there, because I may come back and it's gone. Then what? But then, like you said, it's a battle on a daily basis. I believe it's you having hope that these guys eventually they will turn out to be somebody. Tomorrow, this effort will definitely pay off. What are the challenges as well that you run such an organization? It's not just an organization, it's a complicated actually organization.
It's very complicated.
It's very complicated, very challenging. One time someone said it's better to lead animals. That is very not good. Lead animals than leading people because people are complicated.
Very
So
complicated.
what are the challenges of you running an organization such as Shule Foundation out of your own country, in a foreign country? You are away from home, depending how long, with even this lockdown we had now, you don't travel home. So what are the challenges that come with such, a good heart, but yes, it has challenges.
So I would say one of the biggest challenges is the cultural difference. We were brought up a certain way, our parents parented a certain way, and here in Uganda, you guys parent a different way.
Yes.
Also, I think we work different culturally, and so those are things that I try really hard to adapt to. I'm not always great at it, but I try. I think our culture has something to add,
Yes.
but I try, especially when it comes to the way kids are brought up in the house, try to surround the kids with people who can interject that into their lives.
Yeah.
So that's difficult. There's also cultural differences for me as an individual, meeting people here, friends-wise and stuff like that. And the other big challenge is fundraising. Trying to fundraise here,
Yes.
trying to fundraise abroad. For us, we would love to partner with Ugandan companies.
Yes.
We would love to have Ugandan companies on board. These are Ugandan kids.
Exactly.
These are future employees and customers. And so it would feel like the natural thing to do. The one thing I love about Ugandans is their ability and their viewpoints, how things will always work out. And so it's really helped me to be a little more patient and to breathe more, though I'm not 100% there. I wish I was more Ugandan in that aspect. But you guys are really great at taking a bad situation and just be like,
You will turn out well.
yeah, it'll figure itself out. And it always does.
It does.
It always does.
That is faith. Faith works.
Yes.
A lot of times it does. Faith works. You just have to believe something you haven't seen, but you believe it will surely come to pass.
So we work with a couple of smaller organizations, but unfortunately we really haven't succeeded in getting partnerships or sponsorships from corporations. I am not giving up hope.
Oh yeah, you can't. Hope is what you hold on to. We are on the voice of hope. There's no way we can lose hope. So Jack, it was an honor to have you, but for the sake of time, to everyone who has been following us, time is not on our side. We promise to come back when we return again with Jackie's story, to get to know an American who left the US, came to Uganda, and fell in love with Uganda, of all the countries in Africa. And yes, she has inspired lives and transformed life, especially with the boys on the streets. Until next time, take care. Shalom, shalom.